In this episode, we talk about the fact that you are not special. Get excited because this is Tiny Leaps, Big Changes. Welcome to another episode of Tiny Leaps, Big Changes, where I share simple research-based strategies you can use to get more out of your life. My name is Greg Clunas, and first of all, welcome back, I guess. It's been a minute. We published episode 800 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So it's been a little while, but we are back. I just want to say thank you for being patient. I did come down with COVID a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, and I'm feeling so much better. So thank you. We are back at it. And this episode is not going to disappoint. The goal here is to highlight something that I've been learning and realizing for myself over the last few years. And I think you're probably going to struggle with as well if you haven't already. So what are we talking about? Well, the idea, really the fact that you are not special. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we all sort of grow up believing that we're special, that we're the ones who are going to do something different, something interesting, something amazing. When we're kids, the world literally revolves around us. Even if we didn't have that great of a childhood, our perspective on the world is self-centered. It's focused around us and what it is that we have done or can do or will do. We think about the world from the perspective of how it relates to us, not how we relate to it. And this is common. This is how every child thinks. It is the beginning of the process. It's how we identify who we are in the world. So, of course, we all grow up to some extent believing that we are special, that we're unique. And this is normal. And this is made even worse if we grew up achieving, if we got all A's, if we won the game, if we were regularly rewarded for our behavior. We're led to believe that even more so, we are special, that we are getting these benefits because we are more capable than the people around us. Because when we're that age, when we're coming up, we don't realize that the system we live in is actually incredibly easy to win. School is a relatively straightforward thing to perform well in. You just need to check the boxes. And so when you check the boxes, you get rewarded, and that reinforces the belief that you are capable, that you are special. Now, that's not a bad thing inherently, but there comes a point in every person's life when they realize that maybe they're not as special as they thought they were. Maybe it's because they didn't land the job that they wanted, or maybe they didn't get into the college they wanted, or they failed a test, or they struggled for the first time with something. Some moment occurs where they start to realize, where we start to realize that we're just not that special, that we are, in fact, average. Now, for me, this happened in my mid-20s. I started to recognize just how average I actually was. And I'm going to be honest, and maybe you've experienced this as well. It's depressing. It is demoralizing. When you realize that you are not the talented person, you are not the genius, you are not the main character of the story. Even though everything in your life has told you up to that point that you, in fact, are. When you start to realize that you are, in fact, not, it hurts. And it's hard to grasp, and you find yourself struggling against it and pushing back against it, and maybe even talking about it in therapy for years, trying to come to terms with it, trying to be okay with being average, with being normal. The big thing that helped this click for me was actually when my father passed away. Back in 2017, my dad died, and it was painful. Of course it was. I loved him, but it was painful in a different way as well. It was painful in the sense that I realized for, I think, the first time in my life that no matter what I had accomplished, no matter how much money I had made, I could have been a billionaire by that point. Probably not, but you get my point. Like, theoretically, that's possible, right? That's a thing I can aspire to. But no matter how much money I had, no matter how much success I had, no matter what I did, no matter how special I was, I couldn't change what happened. I couldn't reverse the clock and get more time. I couldn't tell him I love him one more time. Nothing I could do would have fixed this. And that made me realize just how weak I am, just how pitiful I am, how not special I am. It was a hard thing to come to terms with. But there's actually some beauty in this, and this is something that I'm just coming through the other side on. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I think you might be going through this as well. Or maybe you will soon, or maybe you have in the past. But I think if I can help you shortcut that middle piece where you're just not sure how to deal with it, then you'll come out on top. So here is what I have learned and been able to utilize to get through this process for myself. I am not special. I am not talented. I am not a genius, and I am not really that interesting, at least no more than anyone else. I am a human being. I am soft. I am squishy. I die very easily. Like, it's shockingly easy how humans die. It's very weird that we've made it this long. I'm a human being. I am a failure. But my actions don't have to be. But the things I choose don't have to be. The things I do don't have to be, and the way that I do them doesn't have to be. I am personally not special, no more than any other human being in the world. But I can choose to do more. I can choose to work harder. I can choose to pay closer attention. I can choose to move in a direction that works for me in my life. And that action, that is special. That is interesting. That's what I want you to take away here. You are not special, and that's okay. You are average, and that is okay. Being average is actually a phenomenal place to be. But that doesn't mean that your actions have to be average. That doesn't mean that your choices have to be average. You can face insane odds and obstacles and still choose to try, and that is special. That is interesting, and that is something worth writing home about. And the beautiful thing about this world and this life that we live is that oftentimes when you choose to try, the rest falls into place. Not because of any magic woo-woo nonsense, but simply because it was already there to begin with. Opportunity is already there. You just have to try and keep trying until something works in your favor. Now, I do want to end this episode by addressing something that is very, very important to me. It's the key tenet of why I started this podcast to begin with. I can get on this microphone and I can say all the fluffy, floofy, life is amazing and opportunities out there kind of nonsense that I want, but that is not always true. Life is complicated. Simple things that are completely out of our control determine the outcome of our lives. Things like the political climate that we live in, the countries we live next to, as we've seen with Ukraine. The world is far more complex than just woo-woo and rainbows or positive thinking. But for those of us who are in a position to try, it's worth it to try. It's worth it to not give in, to not give up to the idea that you are not special. Because you aren't, but you can still try to be. And for those of us who are in positions that make it more difficult for any number of reasons, it's worth it not to beat yourself up. It's worth it not to get upset because you're not doing as much as you think you should be doing. Because guess what? You are not special. You are average. And average is human. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Like I said, I am really grateful that you gave me the space I needed to recover, get back to pretty much 100%. So thank you. We're going to be consistent going forward at about once a week for now. I'll let you know when I update that. Thank you so much for being here. If you're listening to this episode, find the podcast over on YouTube. It's going to be the first link in the description of this episode. Find the podcast, subscribe there. I'm trying to build up the YouTube channel so that we can start to get a more diverse audience in the community. So thank you for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment down below and just let me know, where are you watching from? What country are you in? I'd love to learn more about you. I've been Greg Clunas, and remember that all big changes come from the tiny leaps you take every day.